Let's date forever. Here's your weekly dose of relationship fuel with Sammy and Nathan Yeager. Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about the challenges of dating in the gay community, the value of having relationship check-ins, and being able to remove your mask and being your authentic self. But before we dive into that, what's been fueling you up this week, Sammy?
Date night fueled me up this week.
Yeah.
Yes, we had such a fun date night. We went to a album launch for an artist that we met during Mardi Gras, and we got a little sneaky VIP invite, which made us feel very special and like one of the cool kids. But the artist Bex put on a showcase, so there was another handful of other artists performing with her, sharing their stuff, sharing their own unique songs, singing, cabaret, burlesque, all sorts.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And then we went out dancing and got home late.
Just enough sleep before your chiro appointment in the morning.
Yeah. He was very impressed with me, but taking care of myself is one of my top priorities, so it was easy to get out of bed for. But yeah, no, it was really nice to spend some fun time with you. I think we'd had quite a bit of quality time the week previous when we were away in Tasmania, but we didn't really have any fun, silly time in that trip. So it was kind of nice to kind of round it out and, go for a dance. Nathan and I both love live music, so it was really cool to do that. And that really fueled me up. What about you, Nath?
So that was probably the main thing that fueled me up last week. But something else that was really nice, actually, that often doesn't happen is that off the back of our holiday, I was actually really excited to get back into work. And I think it can be so often that when you come back from a holiday, you really dread like the first couple of days of work. But yeah, I had a really great couple of days, managed to clean out all my inbox and get through the little backlog of work that I had on, and then rounded out the week really nicely with a rostered day off. So
yeah, you came back to work for 2 days and then had a long weekend.
Yeah, I did, but it felt really great, actually. I loved it. So yeah, I might have to try doing that a bit more often. But now, here's this week's guest.
Today we've got Christiano Green joining us. He is a mindset coach and a relationship expert for gay men, having helped hundreds of gay men find long-lasting love through self-love and happiness. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm excited to have a good conversation today.
We're super excited as well.
We love hanging out with people who love relationships. So I want to start way at the beginning. How did you get interested in this space, and how did you decide to become a mindset coach and relationship expert?
Oh, wow, that's a good story, right? Well, I'll talk about the relationship expert because when I started on this journey of like being a coach, definitely didn't feel like I was one of those. I was a gay man like so many who just struggled to find a relationship and struggled to even keep one. So I might have dated lots and lots, and you probably hear this in the gay community that there's a hookup culture or people have lots of different boyfriends, but none of them really ever lasted more than a couple of weeks to a couple of months max. And throughout that process, I always thought, what was wrong with me? Because, you see everyone else, especially, straight couples, that they just seem to fall into relationships like easy peasy. But for me and many other gay men, it was a struggle. So getting into to coaching, I started out being a mindset coach for gay men, which is obviously what I am still doing now. But I got into it because I just really was going through some really deep trauma stuff that I was struggling to go through. And when I got onto the journey of healing that, I knew from, all the friends that I've had or all the times I've been out and about that I wasn't a single person, struggling with these things. So I really felt like it was my mission, now that I knew all about this stuff, to give back. The great thing about going through your own journey of healing and transformation is that I became ready for a relationship. And when you raise your vibration and you raise your level, you meet other people who are on that level. And then gratefully, I've been in a relationship now for the past 2 years and helped hundreds of gay men over those past 2 years to actually find love as well. So that's why I now call myself an expert, even though I don't think I was when I first started on this journey.
Yeah, and there's always more to learn too. I think one of the challenges, and I say this from being in a heterosexual couple. Nathan and I have been together since 2007, but we have a lot of friends in the queer community. We have a lot of friends who are dating same-sex partners. And I think one of the common themes or struggles or observations maybe is that you can't be what you haven't seen. And if you haven't actually ever seen a healthy, happy, thriving, long-term same-sex relationship, you actually don't even know what it looks like.
That is so certainly true. And as you know, it's not been that long since same-sex marriage has even been legal in Australia, and many places around the world it still isn't. So when you don't have the same rights and you're not seen the same way, you don't envision it. So, a lot of times people do, only think of their life might be in secret. And so when you're hiding in secret, it's hard to really, show who you are to the world. But then how do you show who you are to another person as well if you're hiding from the rest of the world in certain times? So definitely it's hard to envision it when you just haven't been able to see it as well, right?
Yeah, and that's that sort of paradox where like even bisexual women generally end up with male partners, even though they were open to dating the whole spectrum, is because they saw the prince and the princess run away together and live happily ever after. They didn't see the princess and the princess.
Yes, the old Disney romance that everyone wants to have, right?
Yeah,
that's it. And I think even in mainstream television and stuff like that as well, like a lot of the time when you do see like gay relationships portrayed on TV and in shows and stuff like that, they are just jumping from partner to partner. Like we've been watching the L Word and
the Generation reboot.
Yeah, and even so many of those characters, like there's not really that long underpinning relationship there to kind of role model to other people. So
totally, and everything is just a lot harder as well. Like imagining not having a relationship, but then imagining having a family and all the other stuff that you want to have with it. Even getting alone and being seen as a partnership prior to being able to get legally married, not a lot changed other than the fact that yes, we can now be legally seen as a union, but still there's a lot of biases that still happen with getting loans and getting approved for certain things when you are same-sex couples. So you always feel like there's another barrier, which then makes it just feel harder and harder and harder, and then that weighs on you internally as well as the external, struggles that you have as well. And so when you're fighting against, all these things that are out there, it really does affect you here, which then closes you off even further. So it becomes an even deeper struggle to have a relationship.
So I'm curious, what are some of the biggest differences that you see between heterosexual and same-sex relationships? Like, obviously there's a different set of challenges, but can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. I'd say one of the biggest ones would be like the comparison factor or even competition, right? Because you're both same sex, you probably don't compare yourself to each other as much as say I might do with a male partner, because it's easy to compare male to male than male to female, right? So there's sometimes can be competition. Who looks the best? Who's got the better body? Who's got the better job? So there's a lot of that stuff there. And so sometimes if you're feeling like you're not good enough, you might pull away from that person and you might use another excuse to ghost them or whatever. Like ghosting is massive in the gay community. 70% of gay men go through ghosting.
Which is online. Wild, because the community is so small. It is inevitable that person is going to end up dating your friend, or you're going to run into them somewhere. Like, no matter where you are in the world, the gay community is smaller than like general population. So that behavior always blows me away. Like, let's not burn bridges because we know we're going to run into each other again.
Of course, but I think the reasons why people do it are it comes from fears, and people don't want to admit that I don't feel worthy or I don't feel good enough. So if you don't know what to say, people just avoid saying it. And I know it's not the right thing to do, but it's why I see a lot of people doing it, because like I said, they're too afraid to say I'm insecure and I don't know what to do in the situation. Telling someone that you might have been on 2 dates with that you feel insecure. It's an ego thing. And so the ego of the male is a lot more stronger than I would say than it is of the female. And I'm saying that because I've coached many gay men and women, and I see the big differences between, the level of wanting to say how you feel versus wanting to say what I think someone's going to want me to say or what I want people to portray of me. So it's also that kind of like putting on that mask, putting on having that barrier in front of you. So I'd say a competition is one of the big struggles that really gay couples would face.
What do you see are some of the common pillars for a relationship, no matter the gender or the spectrum of the people in that relationship? What do you believe are the pillars to a really fueled up, beautiful, long-lasting relationship?
Oh, I would say one is like you have the same intention for a relationship. So, you know, like I said, a lot of times within the gay community, like there might be one person who's just looking for a hookup or a short fling, right? Or, you know, what some people might call like the winter relationship. I'm dating you over winter because it's cold and it's easier to do that. I'm not going out as much, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to summer, I want to get out there and hoe it up, right? So I would say intention, like being on the same page for what you really are looking for out of a relationship, and then of course, you know, out of life. Everyone knows this next one, it's communication, right? If you can't, if you're not able to express yourself and feel like you can be honest or like feel like you have a safe space with your partner, then it's never going to go anywhere because, you know, the small things will always build up if you don't communicate with those things as well. So communication, you know, about like anything about day-to-day life stuff, about, you know, where you're at internally, like where you're going, like if you're noticing things within them, you know, don't be afraid to be able to communicate because it's the things that you don't say that really cause most of the problems in the relationship. And then I would say, for me, being able to have fun together and like go on adventures and do things together. So like, you know, living your life. Like I love to travel, my partner loves to travel. So like us being able to do that, it's one of our things that we enjoy, and like planning a trip and all those things, like that's for us is fun. So whatever that is for you, you know, spending quality time together. Like for example, every day in the morning, we go to the gym together in the morning. It's the first thing we do. We get up, we go to the gym, and then we have a coffee together, and then we go off and do our different things. So like making sure that you, like I said, you do stuff because it's so easy to be busy and doing your own life. But if you're not having those quality time check-in points, then it, you know, again, you don't have those opportunities for communication as well. So I'd say those are some of the key things that I can think of just off the top of my head.
Perfect. I like the first one, intention, because intention, you might start out with the same intentions, but as the relationship progresses, sometimes that intention can also change. So I'm really curious, like, have you got some recommendations for how couples can stay on the same page about their intentions for the relationship?
How you can stay on the same page? Well, communication again is key for that. So like knowing that you have had the conversation of where you want your relationship to go, right? What I do with my partner, some people do this on a regular basis, some people do it on a, you know, whatever. It's okay, we do it like a relationship check-in. And we do it every couple of months where we sit down and we talk about the things that we love within our relationship, the things that we, you know, are a bit frustrated about. And, you know, some of those small things that you don't necessarily go, I'm not going to talk about that, you know, I bring it up every time. But when there's a safe space to do it, we do it. So we have a check-in and we would talk, like I said, the things we really like, the things we don't like, the things we want more of, like the things that, like I said, we're feeling like are lacking. And then, like I said, exactly that, where we are within our relationship, how comfortable and healthy that we feel it is. So we just sit down there and have that. We'll order, like, you know, our favorite food, and we'll sit in and just like have that kind of a conversation. And if it goes for an hour and we're good, done. If it takes 3 hours and we're like back and forth with it, then the fantastic thing is we always leave that conversation a lot closer than we were before, right? Sometimes those little things, you know, can niggle at you, and you just, I'm going to let it go. But then, you know, this is the spot I'm going to tell you. When you do this, it pisses me off. Or I love when you do that. It really makes me feel like safe in this relationship, you know. So it's both sides of the coin when I would say that there.
Yeah, I love that. And we're such big advocates for this idea as well. So we kind of have a monthly drumbeat around our check-ins. And we set some goals normally quarterly as well, which we are really intentional about trying to achieve for the quarter, and then add up to some of those bigger goals for the year as well. But as you mentioned, like, it is the opportunity to be able to air some dirty laundry or air what's not working, or what might be some of the hurt points or the hurdles that have kind of tripped us up over the last month or so. But then also to share some of the wins and what is working and what can we be doing more of and what's really going to help us to kind of achieve what we want to and stay on the same page and have some fun along the way for this next month.
Christiano, I want to ask, so given that you're the coach in this situation, I'm assuming that your partner is not in the mindset coach space.
He's in real estate.
Yeah. So my assumption is that you probably started this initiative in your relationship. For Nathan and I like to remember back to like when we were only 2 years together, like that feels like such a long time. So I'm really curious, like, how did you go about raising that as something that you wanted to do in your relationship? And like, how did you even introduce that idea?
It came from like having some struggles in a sense. Like I felt like, like I said, I'm not the type of person who's a nitpicker or this and that, but I was like, you see these things here and I'm like, well, I don't want to just be like over coffee. Hey, by the way, that thing you did yesterday pissed me off, because I'm like, I can get over things quite quickly, but I'm like, if we have a space to talk about it, it feels good. So I think it came from me feeling like we weren't having that kind of a conversation, or it wasn't available. There was something missing there. And so I just said to him, like, I actually just kind of sent a message saying, look, I think it'd be really important for us to be able to sit down and have a conversation regularly about our relationship. Now, I'm not saying this because I have all these things that I want to tell you that you've done wrong or this, but I wanted to be a safe space. And so I kind of, spoke it up to him. At first, he didn't like the idea. He didn't want to do it. But I think because he was like, there was some resistance to like what this was about. So I had to kind of bring it up like a couple of times. And I said, look, we need to do this. I need for this conversation to happen on my end. If we do it once and it doesn't feel right, it's shit. But I don't want you just to say, I don't feel comfortable with you being able to say you don't want to do it, and it's not like that. When we did it, he really appreciated it. He had resistance because he's also Indonesia, completely different culture. They're also used to kind of brushing things under the rug as well. So it's been a very big growth. This whole relationship with someone who was a coach, for him, it's been a very big growth lesson for him, not because I feel like he's one of my clients, but because, again, being someone who's a coach, I'm also a very strong communicator. That's what I've always been like. Like I said, when I was in corporate, I had massive teams of 300 people. So I knew that communication was always important. And so, yeah, jumping in with anything with a friendship, family, like, you're gonna know how I feel, because I feel like it's important to share it. But also in that same sense, I'm gonna ask you how you're feeling as well.
Yeah. I like that you framed it that way, because nobody really likes to get that "we need to talk" text message. Like that's like no, but on the flip side of that, no one likes to be ambushed either. Like if you've gone out for like what you think is going to be like a really nice coffee date with your person, you're like, oh, look at this beautiful, cute morning that we're having, and then boom,
whip out an agenda.
Here's my list of the things you fucked off in the last, or fucked off or fucked up in the last, like, I don't know, week, month, quarter, year, since the beginning of time. That's really daunting as well. So for Nathan and I, like, we found this container of having like relationship check-ins, like, so helpful and so cathartic as well. Like, and like you sort of said, like in the beginning, we were a bit clunky, and it was a bit scary to lean in and say like, well, what do you think is not working? And not in a like our relationship's broken kind of way, but like, if you had a magic wand, what would you like to be different? If we were really in the peak of our relationship and everything was as beautiful and loving and overflowing as it could possibly be, what would that look like? What would that feel like? What would that sound like? How often would we be having sex? How often are we fighting? What are we fighting about? What's our, a really great week for us? And we found it to be, such a beautiful practice for our relationship. So I really love that you're doing that in yours.
Yeah, it's important. And like it changed things when we did start talking that way, because like I said, like when you weren't saying that, like there would be things that would pee you off, and like you either say it and like I said, ambush it because you don't know when's the right time to bring it up, or you're like, we need to talk. But again, like then you already feel like you're on eggshells, like what's this about? Like I don't know, like what they're thinking, So neither one of those texts really work, the ambush or the we need to talk, because you go into whatever it is feeling anxious,
Yeah. I think for me too, also sometimes things would happen that felt so insignificant or small that it was like, oh, I should just let that go. Like that wasn't really like a thing. I don't know if you've ever lived in a share house, but like the things that you end up complaining about your housemate are like all these small insignificant things when they're in isolation. But when there's a list of 100 of them, they're not so insignificant. And I think sometimes that can happen in a relationship too, is like there's these little things and then all of a sudden you're carrying around a whole sack full of little things that you haven't put down. So I've found it really useful to like put the little things down on the table when they're little, when they haven't become this whole big sack that I need to unpack and pour out in front. So
and I think for the person receiving that feedback as well, especially if it's the first time or like maybe it's the start of a repeat behavior, maybe it's like the third or fourth time you've seen something, but if your partner brings that to your attention, like at least it's been early and it's not necessarily this huge, big ingrained issue that you've been doing for years and years on end and is going to be a real hard thing for you to then change. Like if it's brought to your attention early, you can go, oh, yeah, no worries. I can do that thing just a little bit differently and it's all good.
Definitely. And the key to think about in certain relationships that move to those next levels where you do live together, they're your partner, but they're also your housemate. So you have to navigate. Is this a relationship problem or is this a housemate problem?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we all know if you're living with someone, a partner, we all know that the difference between those ones, because you can be fighting over someone not doing what the other person wanted them to do with the house, right? And you're not seeing the problem, right? And so again, if you're not having the discussion around who's doing what, around the house, again, those can creep into the relationship problem as well, right?
Yeah. Christiano, I want to go back to something that you kind of touched on a little bit earlier, and I'm sure that this probably plays a really big part in how you became a mindset coach, but you talked about like the male ego, and we all have ego, but I'm really curious, like what have you seen working with the hundreds of clients that you've worked with about the role of your own personal mindset and how that impacts your relationship with yourself and your relationship with whoever you're choosing to do life with?
I love moving into this kind of area because, like I said, I've helped hundreds of gay men, but I've spoken probably to thousands of them. And we all know that every person we speak to online they all don't turn into clients, right? When I say I've spoken to thousands, these are other people who've reached out or I've spoken to and chatted with. And some of the big differences between people who are ready to make that change or people who have struggled with relationships starts with that relationship with yourself, right? If you don't have a strong relationship with yourself, it's going to be very hard for you to be able to get into a proper relationship with others. Now, what do I mean by that? Like, we all know that people who can easily portray being a confident person, right? But that can be a mask, right? I could be really insecure down under. But if I'm pretending to be someone, who am I pretending for? Am I pretending for you or am I more pretending for me? That's what I talk about the ego. If I'm pretending for someone else, the reality is I'm actually pretending for me because I'm trying to not be feeling, I guess, maybe insecure. I'm trying to not feel worthless. So if Sammy or Nathan see me as this thing that I have built up in my head, then maybe I'm not as, worthless as maybe I've been telling myself. But when we're trying to be our real authentic self, I don't need to prove to Jake, to Sammy or Nathan anything about what I do or who I am or like try to prove that I'm a confident person, right? I can just be myself. And so the reason I can be myself is because I have a better relationship with myself. So the people that I say that really struggle the most but as gay men are the people who have a really bad relationship with themselves. And that could be from, like I said, growing up, dealing with the traumas that come up as throughout the coming out experience and their life as a gay man, whether that's to do with their family, whether that's to do with religion, whether that's to do with society, bullying, 50% of gay men get bullied at some point in their life, whether that's in school, in the workplace, even in their family. We all know those things happen in religion.
All of the places where you should feel safe and you have
correct.
Every right to feel safe.
Exactly. And so for me, I got bullied in school and in the workplace up until I was 30 years of age, And so because, again, people thought that they could utilize something that they saw as a weakness in me, and because, again, I felt a lot of insecurities around that, because being a gay man, which is why I help both gay men and women, because we have to fight sometimes 10 times harder to get the same things or be seen the same way. And so as a gay man, I have to go through that. And so whenever something would happen, I would try not to rock the boat because I don't want to be seen over here worrying about what this person's doing. But clearly some of these people are using their power to abuse, whatever's going on here. And maybe I'm doing 100,000 things more than the next person to get that. So reality is that, yes, gay men go for a lot more than I guess straight like gay men
Nathans,
and women.
the Nathans of the world.
Nathans of the world.
The middle-aged white man, cis-het man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so dealing with that can add to additional things. And because of that, it leads to anxiety, depression, loneliness, sometimes even suicide. Like if you look at every single mental health number, it's 2 to 3 times higher than the general population. So we're looking at, 60% of people suffer from anxiety, gay men, 50% deal with depression, 70% deal with loneliness, like chronic loneliness, right? And then we're dealing with, 1 in 3 gay men who are actually then utilizing alcohol, drugs, prescription medication to manage these things, right? So all of that stuff adds up to it because, people are afraid of having a relationship with themselves because maybe all of the stuff that they haven't yet to deal with is still underneath that all. And so the people who then take the next step are ready to go, you know what, I've been dealing with this shit. I don't want to do it anymore. So for me, it's the people who are ready to have a better relationship with themselves are then the ones that are able to actually then go out and get the relationship that they're looking for externally with a partner, right?
I think we talk a lot about on this show, your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship that you have, and a big part of the Date Forever methodology is about continuously dating yourself, having a really intimate, beautiful relationship with yourself and your chosen person. But what I find really interesting about the conversation that we're having is that for the gay queer community, a lot of those humans have spent a lot of time very actively pretending not to be who they are. They may have realized suppressing a piece of themselves where it hasn't felt safe to show up in the world as that authentic self. And I think a lot of people experience that almost like you're damaged to your intuition, damage to your compass, damage to your North Star or your total sense of self, that I think it then can be really scary to actually authentically look in the mirror and own who you are because you spent so long pretending that you're not that.
Oh, yeah. And years and years and years, decades for people, right? Of doing all this stuff. And, hearing and seeing are all around you places and people that don't respect you or even hate you, right? So you live in this fear, this bubble of fear around who you are. So then, like I said, you hide it and you mask it. And oftentimes the way that we can best numb ourselves is through alcohol, through drugs, or getting on medications for anxiety and depression. When in fact, the people who should be prescribing these should actually really try to get to the root cause of why are people actually anxious or depressed. But because you don't trust, as a gay man, probably you don't trust being able to tell even your doctor because, you struggle through it. I mean, of course, it's getting better and better in certain places around the world all the time. And that's grateful, but it still doesn't counteract the years of depression that many people have had to go through to get to here and say, okay, today is different because you've told me that it is. There's a lot of work that goes into, unlearning or ungoing through processes, right? Like clearing that out. But you still have the memories of it, right? And it's hard to forget,
So I'd love to know, if somebody is at that beginning stage where they're like, I am done performing this version of myself and I would like to maybe uncover who I am. I think some people who have been performing for a really long time don't even know who they are without the mask that you mentioned earlier. What are some of the things that you would recommend to even just start that process, to start to look inwards, to start to piece together who you are and who you want to be?
And I love that you used the word performing, because I from my experience, it did feel like a performance, trying to like to put on this mask to be someone there. So what are some things that people can do? If you're ready to like to start to go on the journey of like having a better relationship with yourself,
Yeah.
I think one of the key things that people really need to be able to do is like be honest that like I am in this place where I am right now. So like knowing that like, yes, I am unhappy and I've been trying to maybe have a relationship and it's not working. I know for many years, I always used to say, oh yeah, I'm good being single, it's fine. Like it'll happen later. Like my life's too busy right now. I've got so many things going on. And I would make sure that my life was so busy with going out partying or doing this with different friends or having this hobby on that. So I didn't have any time to be alone and feel any of those feelings. Right. So what I would say is like, really just be honest with yourself and say, look, I am unhappy with the fact that I haven't been able to get into a relationship. I am unhappy with the fact that like, years and years and years, I see other people getting into these relationships and I am jealous of that, right?
There is this great quote from Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art of How to Not Give a Fuck. And it says, it's worth remembering that for any change to happen in your life, you must be wrong about something. If you're sitting there miserable day after day, then that means you're already wrong about something major in your life. And until you're able to question yourself to find it, nothing will change.
Exactly. I love that.
You have to have humility to admit that I have made a mistake somewhere.
Exactly. I've made a mistake in trusting someone here. I've made a mistake in not trusting someone here. I've made a mistake in not being able to feel safe enough to show who I am, right? And half the time is, I don't feel safe enough to even explore who I am. So there's that two sides of that story, right? So if I don't feel safe enough to explore who I am, how can I then feel like I can do that to other people, right?
Yeah.
For me, what I had to do was I lived alone for a number of years because I really was like, I wanted to be able to go home and just be who I was at home and try to figure that out without needing to put on that stuff. Because when I was living with other people, again, I put on a performance of trying to be the perfect, because for gay men, a lot of gay men get caught up in this perfectionism thing. Because if I am perfect at my job, I'm the perfect son, the perfect friend, it also takes away you thinking maybe less of me as a person because I'm gay, right? So
because I'm perfect.
Exactly. And I had to be this perfect and putting on all that stuff. So taking off that need to be perfect all the time is one of the first steps, again, that you can be able to like I said, step into, like, who am I, right? Finding people that you trust to be able to talk to is key, The thing is that, when I went on this journey and shifted and changed into being a coach, so many people, when you say to people who I guess, and you probably can relate to this, who maybe you're going through something and are like afraid to share it, yet you're a coach, people or you're a therapist or whatever, like people like will back away slowly, because they think that you can tell, like, oh, you're going to do some mind tricks on me and you're going to know that I'm really fucked up underneath all of this stuff, right?
Aren't we all?
And that was the thing that I was trying to say, is like, just because I'm a coach doesn't mean I'm perfect. Like, I've still got shit that I'm working on. It's just that the good thing is from where I'm at, I can help people who are here get to here, right? And hopefully by the time you're here, I'm already here, so I can help you get to here as well, So that's the thing about it as well. But yeah, getting someone that you trust, and oftentimes getting someone that you don't even know who knows anything about your life, that has anything to do with your life, is maybe the easiest people that you can trust, right? I remember going out and partying sometimes, and sometimes I would just lose everybody and I'd be out, drinking and smoking, talking to random strangers, and I'm bawling my eyes out, telling them some sad story, and they're doing the same to me because I didn't feel comfortable that I could tell, my best friends about these things. But you can tell a complete stranger.
Or the Uber driver on the way home.
Or the Uber driver on the way home. Yeah, exactly right.
And I guess that's the thing. That's one of those places where you don't need to have a mask, where you can be your authentic self. You're probably never going to see this person again. So
and even if you do, you won't remember it.
Exactly right. So yeah, so being able to find someone that you trust and share that with is important. Or just find someone that you feel that you can look up to and that knows knowledge about what you're doing. And that's the thing that I guess, when I jumped into this journey of helping gay men, I was baffled by the fact that there is hardly anyone out there that is doing what I'm doing, right? And anyone who's doing it is like doing it on a very small level. And so that means like there's so many gay men out there, like they say like 3 to 5% of men are gay. And then maybe another 4 or 5% are bisexual, right? So if there's that many people and you look at the world, billions of people, that's hundreds of millions of people that are dealing with this kind of thing, right? And if that's happening, then no one's helping these people, then where do you think you can go? Because I've tried and I've done many different courses out there that, you know, are around self-love or around happiness. And yes, they've got some amazing things, but they also don't understand the struggle I've been through or understand some of the things on a deeper level. So being able to find someone that can be able to support you in that way, who understands exactly the shit that you're going through, is important. Because when you can relate to someone, like, and see that also someone's been where you're at, but also they're here, that's the inspiring story that you want to see, right? It's easy to see, a Disney, movie where, like I said, these characters do this here, but when you're not feeling represented, it's very hard for you to think that makes it possible for you as well, right?
It's funny that you give this analogy because Nathan and I were having a chat over the weekend about personal trainers, and that maybe someone who's on a huge weight loss journey and they really want to fundamentally change their life, maybe doesn't want to see the most ripped, fit, well-balanced, sculpted. Yeah. That's the word I'm looking for. Personal trainer. Yeah. They maybe want to work with someone who has actually been through or is still going through that transformational change themselves. Like, hey, I've been where you are. I know what that's like.
And not too long ago. I've been through the steps. I know the challenges of, I'm living them still at the moment.
Yeah, and that can actually be incredibly powerful to work with someone who's been where you've been or has achieved what it is that you're trying to achieve. So I really like that you've shared that, because it is a unique perspective. And that's not to say that, athletes at the Olympics have coaches that haven't won gold, and they can coach you to gold, because the skill of doing and the skill of coaching are very different. But I do believe that, there's some special sauce or some magic fairy dust in having lived from that point of view.
Definitely. And that's the thing that I found through the years that I've been doing, is that, like, you can only coach so many people one-on-one through these problems, or even in a group, like harder in a group to do to go into deep work with one person, right? Because you've got a whole group of people that you want to work with. So, that was one of the reasons why, I've decided to launch a brand new online course. It's called the Gay Men's Guide to Love and Happiness. And it is for people who are at that point, who are in that spot that we were just saying, like, who are ready to start out and go like, hey, like, I'm ready for it now. What can I do? I've got a 21-day online course, which is literally designed to teach people how they can go on the journey of self-love and happiness. And we talk about it from the experience of gay men who've gone through, the struggles with mental health, struggles with body image, the struggles with comparing themselves to the rest of the world and hiding themselves, right? And the fantastic thing is like, over the 21 days, it's there to guide you how you can actually do that for yourself and then implement that in your life. So maybe when you are ready to have the relationship, at the end of it, you've started on really getting that really close connection and relationship with yourself, right?
Yeah, amazing. So, Christiano, if people want to jump on that course, where can they find it?
Where can they find it? Well, if you search me up on Instagram, Facebook, I'm under Christiano Green or Christiano.coach. They'll be there. You can find links to it there. I'll probably send it to you too as well. If we can send it out
while we'll pop it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll pop it in the show
fantastic.
notes.
Yeah, a link for that to join up and check it out. And the good thing about it is, like I said, I've been able to do something that I feel is a passion project, and put through all the years of my own healing, but then also like the experience of me helping and healing, hundreds of gay men who have gone through the same struggles that I've been through, and probably so many out there who are listening to this as well.
Yeah. Hey, Christiano, this has been such a great conversation. To round us out, I'm curious, what are some of the habits, practices that you have now in your relationship with yourself to keep it fueled up?
Beautiful. I love this question because a lot of people don't do this one, but it's probably one of the easiest things, and I call it mirror work. We all look at ourselves probably 100 times a day. And I can probably bet if I asked you to say, what do you say when you look yourself in the mirror? Most people are going to say, oh, look at those bags under your eyes. Oh, look at that, bit of fat that you've got there, right? You say all these negative things about yourself. One key thing that you can do that's so easy is start to say things that are more loving and kind to yourself, right? You're going to say to yourself, go, look at you, like you're such a beautiful friend, or you can, if you like, it's going to, at first it might be hard for you to start to pick things, but do it. Just go, look, you know what, you are really kind. You are really smart. You are really whatever, right? And if you start doing this, for a couple of minutes a day and stare into your eyes and say this, it really fires off new neural pathways, because we're so used to giving compliments to other people, right? But we're really good at giving to ourselves. So when we look at ourselves and we see it, we're actually training ourselves to love ourselves more by just looking at ourselves in the eyes, giving ourselves compliments. It gets easier and easier. And then sometimes you're like, you look past the mirror, you're like, yeah, you got this, baby. And like, you can do fun things, like whatever is going to be good for you. That's one of the key things I would say I like in mirror work, is just making sure that I do that there.
Is that something that you do to start your day, or is it peppered in just whenever you catch a glance of yourself?
Start the day, because, the first thing I can do when I get up is literally go to the bathroom and then brush my teeth, and I'm looking in the mirror. So I'll do it in that, and usually within the first 15 minutes of me getting up. And then, like, if I catch something there, like a glance at the mirror, or sometimes more of a glance when I'm really feeling myself.
Hey, sexy bitch.
Yeah. Then I'll do that there. But yeah, so it's good. But yeah, at least 5 minutes usually, when I'm in the bathroom doing that thing in the morning, it is a good way to do it. Other things I would say I would do is sleep is important. I would say, like, when I was younger, I would live off of 4 or 5 hours sleep. I love 8 hours now. For me, that works out well. So making sure that I go to bed and get up at the same time regularly, because when I'm getting good sleep, I get up, I feel better about myself. Then I'm more likely to make better choices than, like, for example, what I'm eating, like making exercise. Because when I'm tired, I can easily go, oh, I'll do it later. And then later comes, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, right? Like, and that's with all tasks. So if I'm feeling energetic, like if I feel like I've taken care of my body, I'm more likely to be in a loving place within myself, and then to be that within my relationship. Because again, we all know if we're tired and someone says something that you take the wrong way, you can be the snappy bitch back to your partner, and then you've caused a problem that you really didn't need to do just because of simple things like that.
That is such an underrated piece of self-care.
And one that we need to work on.
And one that I need to work on. I
say that it's so easy, people can do. Like I could give you a list of all the things I do, but depends on the resources you have available and your time and what you choose to put into your life. But I'm just picking things that I think are so, like I said, underrated and so important, right?
Yeah, because I think like for the most part, I move like I love myself. I eat like I love myself. I talk to myself like I love myself, but I don't sleep like I love myself.
Or you don't go to bed like you love yourself.
I don't go to bed like I love myself. I need to work on that one. I want to work on that one. I'm going to work on that one. Thank you.
Go to bed like you love TikTok.
I want to, I will, I am.
Yes, I am. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. To say thank you, we've provided a student in Indonesia with a week of classroom education. To achieve gender equality and empower all women around the world, we need to get them educated. And we know that when we educate women, they rise up their communities, their countries, and the world. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for making that possible. We've done that with our partnership via Buy One, Give One. So thank you.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. And I saw that before. So appreciate that you're doing that and you picked that in Indonesia, because that means a lot to me, because I see the things that are needed definitely around this place. So yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me as well. It's been a pleasure being on the podcast.
No worries. So Christiano, if we want to connect with you personally, how could they do that?
Yes, if people want to connect with me personally, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. Those are the two main. I'm on everything else, but like I would say, come check me out on Instagram, christiano.coach. That's kind of where I spend most of my time, chatting with people and connecting. So if you always send me messages, you get back to people quite quickly. But yeah, like, come be friends, come check out my stuff, and let's see where we go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.